Always wanted an easy one-click rigging solution to animate cars? Tired of chaos vehicle which is unreliable and unpredictable? Well, today we're going to build ultimate one-click car rig. Hi there, Post Processors here and welcome back to the channel. And yeah, I know what you're all thinking. How's that one-click rigging solution if the video is 40 minutes long? Well, before it becomes one click, you should first assemble that. Today I will guide you through the whole process. We are going to create base rig functionality, fix calipers, create wheel suspension, which will affect car body too, convert our rig to module, learn how to animate it on spline, and by the end of this video, you will have ultimate modular car control rig which suits for cinematics and animation, and completely for free. Well, the only price actually is subscribing to my channel and leaving a like to this video, so don't hesitate to subscribe, get yourself comfortable, and let's get started. First, I would like you to download CarMesh from the link down in the description, so all of us will have the same results during the process. Also for this tutorial I'll be using Unreal Engine 5.41, so please use this version or later. Now getting into Unreal. In order to have modular control rig enabled, go to Settings, Plugins and search for Control Rig Modules. Enable it and restart the engine if asked to do so. I have this plugin already enabled. Now copy the folder car rig which you have downloaded by the link in the description to your project content folder. You can do that even while engine is running. The mesh should appear even in that case. I strongly recommend you to use this mesh because it's given some troubles. Well, at this point it feels like we are playing Dark Souls, not learning Unreal. Just copy paste it and you should see it in your content browser. Right click on Skeletal Mesh, create Control Rig. Open Control Rig Blueprint. Now let's create new null and name it Control Space, as our controllers should not be attached to any of the bones. Right click here and create new control. I will name it Body and change its color to blue. Then I duplicate it and name it Wheel Rotation. And last controller is Steering. Again, I duplicate controller by clicking Ctrl D on my keyboard and rename it to Steering. Next, I will change color of the controllers, Wheel Rotation to yellow and Steering to green. Alright, now let's build some functionality to it. As actions should be performed in particular order, we need sequence node. Connect execute pin from forward solve. Now drag body control to the blueprint field and select Get Control. Next, drag body bone to blueprint and pick Add Offset. Connect transform from controller to bone, then connect sequence pin to offset transform. If you try to move control in the viewport, car body will move. Nice, we already have something working. Next is steering. Grab both front wheel bones, FL and FR. Drag them and select Add Offset. Grab steering control, get control, unfold transform pin and translation pin, as we are going to use Y-axis for our steering. Drag Y-axis pin and look for Multiply node. Put the value 0.35. I just found this works good, otherwise steering is not very precise and happens too fast with just small control movement. Drag result pin of Multiply and look for node Euler. Actually, you don't need value to vector node, so just unfold Euler pin and connect result to Z-axis. Unfold transform pins for bones and connect result to rotation. Connect sequence execute pin for both bones. And now, if you move steering controller on Y-axis, your wheels will steer. Nice, but having controller inside of the car is not that good, so let's move it out and make it more visible. Let's change the shape of controller to 2 arrow thick. It is still too small and barely visible. First, let's change control offset on X-axis so it will be in front of our car and above the ground. You can also change its scale for better visibility. Great, it's working nice so far. Now I will clean up a little bit by commenting sections of the rig. You can select multiple nodes and press C button on your keyboard and comment the selection. First is body control, second is steering. For wheel rotation we need another pin for sequence node, so you can add it by clicking on plus icon in sequence node. Great, we have two controllers, now let's create wheel rotation controller and address calipers so they won't rotate with the wheels. Right-click on the blueprint field and search for node Get Control Float. Select wheel rotation control in drop-down menu. Next, drag float value pin and look for multiply node. Set value to 25. This value will determine how fast should wheels spin depending on controller position change. Higher values will make them spin faster, you can change it anytime. Next, drag multiply result and add another multiply node. Right-click empty field and search for half pi, connected to B pin in multiply node. After that, drag result of multiply node and add node accumulated time. Add from Euler node. Unfold Euler pin and connect time to Y, as wheels are spinning on Y-axis. Next, select all 4 wheel bones and drag them to blueprint field and select Add Offset. Unfold Offset Transform. Connect Euler node transform result to rotation of all wheels. Also, you can actually create another wheel rotation control, duplicate this functionality, which will be working separately for front and rear wheels if you would like. But for now, let's pretend our car is all-wheel drive. Connect sequence pin to transform node and connect the rest of them. Next, change wheel rotation control value type to position, so wheels will spin only when you move it on X-axis. Change the shape to two-sided arrow. Let's also change shape size for better visibility and rotate it 90 degrees on X and Y axis. Change its initial position on Y and Z axis so it will remain here. Now if you drag it back or front, the wheels will be spinning accordingly. Compile and save it. Also, let's set the limit for our controller so you won't make it huge value. Change min and max on X-axis to -20 and 20. Now your controller won't leave these bounds. You can do the same for steering later too. Also, I like to hide the limits so it won't distract me. Next, I will do a little bit of cleaning of the blueprint. Cool, we have nice simple rig. Let's now fix the calipers. Open your skeletal mesh and select last material. Let's put some bright material in it so we can see it better. I use Automotive material pack, which is free and available on Unreal Engine Marketplace. Look for Caliper and assign it to Caliper parts. Now we can see them better. Get back on control rig. Here, if you add a bit of wheel rotation, you will see that calipers is turning together with the wheel. But it is really easy to fix. Go to wheel rotation graph and just uncheck propagate to children for all 4 wheels. As our caliper bones are attached to wheel bones, they are rotating together, but when you disable this checkbox, all functions as it should be. Oh yeah, I almost forgot about the body controller. Let's also change its shape and drag it above the car. Like scale it 10 times for better visibility. Or maybe even 15, I guess is better. Cool, our base rig is done. Before we dive into suspension functions, I always get a lot of questions how to add materials to cars. As I mentioned, I'm using Automotive material pack in order to shade our car. We can also rely on it. And by opening Skeletal mesh, we can assign materials to material slots and quickly make our Mustang look better. It's always your choice of color and stuff, and here I'm just quickly shading my car with materials from Automotive material pack. You can just simply search for car paint, plastic, metal or something like that. Usually Automotive Unreal Engine material pack covers most of my needs. Great, we have our rig base, we shaded our Mustang so it looks cool. Now get yourself prepared for the most difficult part, which actually sets this rig apart from others, and it is working suspension. And here I would require your undivided attention. It is the last step before converting this rig into a rig module. Now let's create logics for the suspension. First navigate to My Blueprint tab. Here we can create variables for each wheel: rear left, rear right, front left and front right. First, I will create variable for target distance. I will name it Z offset RL target for rear left wheel. Now I copy and paste this variable, set variable type to float. Now I will rename variables for each wheel accordingly. This variable will dictate how far our wheel goes when it hits something. Later we will interpolate this value for smooth input. Now I'm creating variables for each wheel which will be used for transform input. I will name it Z offset and wheel bone name. I also need 4 of them and will name them accordingly. Okay, we've set up all the variables and now we will create the wheel trace function. Click here on plus button to add a new function. Name it wheel trace. So here we have entry and return. We need to add input and output arguments. So for entry, we will feed wheel bone. I will change its type to rig key element. And for output, we need a value which will be a vector. Now right-click on empty field and search for Get Transform. This will add transform node. Connect argument pin to item. We'll be able to choose which bone we feed to this transform outside of wheel trace function. This will make our rig look clean. Now drag root bone to the blueprint field. Select Get Bone. Expand transform pin. From the first transform node, drag translation pin and look for Add node. From root transform bone, do the same but look for subtract node. After that, unfold pins. Next, connect Z from root bone both to add and subtract nodes into Z axis of A tab. Do the same for X and Y axis for first transform node and connect it to A tab of add and subtract nodes. This will give us a position of each wheel relative to the scene root where tracing will be happening for each wheel. Now in B tab, define Z value. In add node, it is 10 and in subtract node, it is 30. It will give us a limit of how far tracing should be happening, basically start and end of it. So if you have a different car model, for example SUV, so you can play around with those values to define how far the wheel will go inside the body or drop down. Now right-click on an empty field and look for Sphere Trace by Object Types node. Add object type World Static and World Dynamic by clicking on plus button. Connect add and subtract results to start and end pins of Sphere Trace. Now we need to figure out the radius of the Sphere Trace. That should be the radius of the wheel of your car in centimeters. To find this value, just drag and drop your skeletal mesh into the scene. Switch view to left or right side, zoom to your car's wheel, and by holding middle mouse button, drag a line from one side of the wheel to another. It gives us roughly 70 centimeters, so I will use this value. Navigate back to your control rig. Set radius to 70. Unfold hit location pin. Pick Z value and connect it to return. This is it. We have made our wheel trace function and now we will receive heat inputs from our wheels. We need to use these inputs in order to transform wheel movement. Go back to forward solve script, basically our main rig controls. Here from my blueprint tab, drag function you have created. As we made an argument in this function, we can now select the bone and add any bone for tracing. You can use wheel bone or caliper bone. In my case, first wheel is rear left, but I will use caliper bone. It doesn't actually matter which bone will you use, caliper or wheel bone, but I prefer using different bone from the one I will be applying changes to. But feel free to use the wheel bone for that too. So I pick caliper rear left bone first, unfold value pin and drag offset target for rear left wheel to the blueprint. Select Set Offset Target. Connect it with Wheel Trace function and connect Z value to offset value input. Repeat this for all 4 wheels. Rear right, front left, front right. Don't forget to select corresponding bone in Wheel Trace function. Connect this function from sequence or from forward solve executable node. You can add more pins in sequence node by clicking on plus button. Good, right now we have heat detection for our wheels and this information will be stored in our variables. Let's interpolate those values and apply to our wheels. Drag all of your target variables to blueprint and select Get Value. Next, right-click on empty field and look for alpha interp node. Connect value pin from target variable to value pin of alpha interpolation. Next, drag offset variable of the same wheel and connect result of alpha interpolate to offset variable. Do that for all 4 wheels. And set interpolation speed to 20. The higher the value, the faster interpolation happens. I found 20 to work good, but you can play around with those values to get desired result. Connect forward solve or sequence to enable those nodes. Do not forget to tick Interpolate Result checkbox, otherwise wheels will not react smoothly to terrain. Okay, we're almost done, now let's apply those interpolated values to our wheel bones. Here I have wheel rotation and we will be adding offset for our wheels here. If you add it before or after those nodes, it will make your wheels rotate in very strange way. Drag your offset variables corresponding to the wheel you will be applying it to. Select Get Offset. Connect this value to Z-axis of the wheel. Do that for all 4 wheels. Now let's make the same with the caliper bones, they should be affected by bumps too, right? I will just copy offset transforms, change which bones they should affect, copy get offset variables and connect them to Z values of desired brake caliper. Hit compile and save. This is it for wheel trace, now let's check it out. As you can see, wheels are driving over bumps and you don't need to animate them manually, it works perfectly well. Now as wheel suspension is functional, we need to take those transforms and apply them to body so it will also react to uneven terrain. As our body will be responding to terrain automatically, we don't need the body control, so you can disconnect execution pin from it. Now we need to create multiple dummy controls, which we will aim at. Right-click here and create new control. First will be Body Dummy Center. Duplicate it and name the new one Body Dummy Spring. It will make our body wobble. Change Body Dummy Center control shape to box. It will visually show us how body behaves. Change its position, but remember to change shape position, not offset. Next we need 4 controls for each wheel aim. Duplicate spring control and name it Body Dummy Front Left Control. Do this for each wheel. Front right, rear right and rear left. Name them accordingly. Now we need to create multiple aim constraints. Please watch carefully because if any mistake is made, nothing is gonna work. Right-click on empty field and search for aim constraint node. 1 node for each of the wheel. Copy and paste till you have 4 of them. Set child type to control for all of them. Pick each wheel dummy control we have created. If you see incorrect naming of controls, compile rig first. Now for each aim node, set the control to corresponding dummy. Next, in target space, set type to control. Leave name field none. Unfold parent pin. Check control name and select corresponding wheel bone name. For front left control, pick front left bone. Do that for the rest of all aim nodes. Change target space to control and select corresponding bones. A far dummy for front right wheel and so on. Next we need to add rotation constraint, so our body will get the rotation from wheel position. Change type to control. Pick Body Dummy Center Control. add 3 more parents. So in total we have 4 of them, 1 for each wheel. Set parent item type to control for each parent. Assign our dummy controls to all of them: front left, front right, rear left and rear right. After that, add node position constraint. Change type to control. Again, assign body dummy center control and 3 more parent items. This time parent type should be bone. Attention, now use caliper bone for front part. First CFL for caliper front left, then caliper front right. For rear use wheel bone, rear left or RL or rear right RR. I don't know why, but it didn't work for me if I used only wheel bones for 4 of the parents. You can try that on your side and check if it works for you, but I think Unreal just being Unreal and just doesn't want to cooperate. Anyway, we created all our constraints and all we need to do right now is apply them to our transforms, so our rig suspension will work completely automatically and procedurally. Drag body dummy center to the blueprint. Select Get Control. Unfold transform pin. Drag rotation and look for spring interpolate. It will add this springy feeling for our body, so it will keep shaking after driving over bump. Drag dummy spring control and select Set Transform. Unfold value pin and correct spring interpolate result to rotation. After that, connect dummy center control translation result to set spring control translation. Drag body bone and select Set Bone. Drag body spring control and select Get Control. Connect transform to set body bone transform. Finally, drag body control, pick Get Control. Copy set bone and here select root bone now. Connect body transform value pin to root bone. Now connect all execute pins for these logics. We are done. Now, the final moment. Let's connect the execute pin from the functional part of our graph to the suspension logics which we've just made. Don't worry, we're gonna fix it right now. The thing is that our body center and body controls are placed at the 0 coordinates, but not at the center of the root bone of our model. So it takes the center of the car and drops it below surface. In order to fix it, select the body controller and change offset to higher amount. It will move our root higher. Move it till the wheels are touching the ground. Next, select body center control and also change offset. Dummy center defines how high our body is positioned. So you can adjust suspension height, for example if you have SUV or a sports car. Adjust offsets the way that your wheels are standing on the ground and car body as the desired position. Hit compile and save. Also you can create variables to fine-tune the ground position and the height of the suspension, and it will be available and working in the control rig module. So you can apply that to other cars and fine-tune that. Unfold pins for transform of the last control, which is leading to the root bone. Connect X and Y axis of control to bone. Also connect rotation. Now on Z axis, drag pin and look for add node. Connect result to Z axis of bone. Now if you change add value, it will offset the root from the ground. Do the same for dummy center control and connect it to set spring control the same way as shown. Copy add node. Right-click to B value and promote pin to variable. Go to My Blueprint tab and name it Suspension Height. Tick checkbox instance is editable and exposed to cinematics. Compile the rig. And now you're able to adjust the suspension height. Now let's promote other pin to variable so we can adjust root bone position. Name that variable ground height. Compile and save. We are done. Let's check it out. Drop your control rig into the scene, check if it stands properly on the ground and test all of the controls. And now let's test our suspension. Add shape to the level and just try to move it under the car rig. It should work procedurally now. Next, let's add a little bit of springy spring for those wheels, so they will bounce a little bit more from the ground. Let's get back to our wheel trace logics. After every offset target, we can add spring interpolation node and connect the result back to alpha interpolate. Do that for all 4 offset targets. Also, you can play around with the spring interp values to make it softer or more rigid. Compile and save. Let's check it out again. As you can see, our body is also bouncing, but smoother and slower. Wheels have bounce and it looks sort of natural, I would say. Prepare yourself for the grand finale. Let's convert our rig to a module and apply it to another car. First thing you need to do is to delete control space, as when turning into module, Unreal will create control space by itself. After that, click here, switch to rig module. Click yes to continue and save it. Sometimes after converting to rig module you can have some issues like here, as the wheels are spinning, but we will fix it right now quickly. In your rig module you should see construction event graph. As you see, wheels are constantly rotating and it is a bug of controller construction event. Search for wheel rotation spawn vector control. Unfold initial value. As you see, it is somewhere in space, and we use x-axis for wheel rotation, so set it to 0. Now let's move our controller and monitor its current position, as we need to set new position for y and z axis. Drag it out, copy y and z values and paste them to initial value. Hit compile and save. Now it behaves properly. Let's duplicate our rig module and name new one to car rig so it will have nice name in the modular control rig tabs. When I tried to rename existing one, Unreal crashed. Just for you to know, don't rename the modular control rigs which are functioning or used by some other models. I don't know why, well, the feature is experimental anyway. Now let's apply our rig module to another car. Switching the rig to new car has never been easier. I must warn you that you should have the same bone structure and the same bone naming in order for this control rig to work right away with one click. I'm gonna use the Cyberpunk car, which I was working on my previous video. You can check it out here or by the link in the description. In that video I showed how to rig and weight paint the car model, which is suitable for the rig we have created today. So please check it out and be sure that any of your cars have the same bone naming in order for this module to work correctly and right away. Right click on Skeletal Mesh, create Modular Rig. Drag our car rig module, hover your mouse cursor over the socket and in this menu connect it to root. And yes, now our car is instantly rigged. We just need to adjust suspension height and ground height. As you remember, we have created editable variables for suspension height and ground height. Don't forget that variables should have instance is editable checkbox ticked in control rig in order to be able to adjust parameters here in the modular rig. Now we can fine-tune the position for our new car. Compile, save and drop our new car into the scene and check that everything works the same way as it worked for our Mustang model. Brilliant, all works just as it should. You can also add your own controllers, try playing around with that, or make your own variables, for example for damping and so on. There are so many unexplored features that can be done. Feel free to experiment and adjust rig to your needs. Now what's about some quick animation, let's say? I prefer to animate it on spline for easier edits and not to use take recorder, because I like being able to change it at any moment in timeline and do minor adjustment. Let's try it out now. First I will add content or feature pack to the project, the vehicle template. Next, open off-road example map. You won't see anything upon the level is loaded. Open wall partition, select region, right-click and load region from selection. Here I find the spot where I would like to drive the car. Somewhere here, let's say. Then I add camera rig rail. In order to snap it to the ground, press End button on your keyboard. Now just draw the path with it. Be very careful and precise so the spline won't fall through the ground and will remain on top of it. Here my car will drive on top of the hill and then will go down. I will speed up the process of drawing the spline not to waste your time. As I said, try to be very careful on how you are placing spline points. At all time try to keep the rail on the ground. When the spline is done, drop the rig into the scene, it will automatically create sequence for you. Add rail to sequencer. Add attach track for your control rig by clicking here on plus icon. In Details tab of the rig, reset location for the car, so it will snap to the rail. In Rail, check the box Lock Orientation to Rail. So right now basically rail tells how much the car should be pitched, right, when it's driving up the hill or down the hill, and the rest the rig will do itself procedurally, like a little body shake, driving over bumps and so on. For rail, add current position on rail. It has value from 0 to 1. Add a keyframe and make it linear. Go to the end of the sequencer, add another keyframe, change the value of this keyframe to value 1. Nice! Our car is driving and suspension is working. You can do that for all cars now which have the same bone structure. Also, you can watch my more in-depth tutorial on how to animate car on the spline by clicking here or by the link in the description. This solution, which is probably not perfect, but it is much better than using take recorder with a chaos vehicle, as you would spend much more time trying to take the turn perfectly, record it, and when client asks for changes, you would need to do that again from scratch, as you can't change much of baked animation from the take recorder. This approach is non-destructive in terms of animation, and you can adjust it at any point without making new takes in take recorder. Talking about chaos vehicle actually. This, what I showed you today, is compatible with a chaos vehicle asset, and you can combine best of the both worlds. Do some animation with real physics and gameplay with the chaos vehicle and animate with the control rig. I think this solution would work really good for games too. I know there are some paid plugins on Unreal Engine Marketplace for car animation, and the best one is the Cinematic Car Rig, but if you are just starting with automotive cinematics, I strongly believe that what I showed you today is the best approach you can have for free and dive into automotive movies. I would like also to thank Christian Schweger for helping me so much with figuring out body suspension. Go check out his channel, he does incredible visuals with really high detailed technical parts of suspension. Also check my other videos and tutorials on the channel, and especially the playlist of the projects I worked on. Don't forget to subscribe, and come on guys, like 90% of the viewers are not subscribed to my channel. Come on. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.